Hey there, welcome everybody to the How I Became a Successful IBM Software Engineer. I'm Richie Nunez. I'm the Events and Media Coordinator here at Alco. Before we get started, we're actually going to launch our first poll of the evening. If you'd like to apply to join our exclusive Alco Slack community that consists of job-seeking software engineers, please select yes on that poll. We're going to be jumping right into the event overview. First and foremost, welcome. We're going to be starting with a quick intro to Outco, to myself, to Siddharth and Sunil, which should take about 5 minutes or so. And then we're going to jump right into the conversation in regards to how I became a successful IBM software engineer between Sunil and Siddharth, which should take about 45 minutes. And then we're going to have a quick Q&A at the end for about 10 minutes. For those that don't know, Alco is a 4-week career accelerator that's built specifically for software engineers. It was founded in 2015 in San Francisco, and it's essentially a coaching and skill sharpening service that's made for software engineers. We've helped place over 2,000 job-seeking software engineers into their dream roles. And if you'd like to learn more, there's classes in Eastern Standard Time and Pacific Standard Time as well. And we're going to be ending this first poll to launch the second poll. If you'd like to learn more about our New Year's sale, we have actually 10% off of all upfront payments. If you'd like to learn more, please select yes, and we'll go ahead and send you some more information. Again, I'm Richie Nunez. I'm the Alco Events and Media Coordinator. I'm also the Alco Alumni Community Manager. I've managed over 50 events for Alco that have to do with software engineering negotiation, resume optimization, whiteboarding, etc. And I'll actually let the speakers introduce themselves. Siddharth, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, welcome everyone. Wish you all a very happy new year and hope you are all safe and sound and healthy. So, guys, I'm Sid. You can call me Sid. I'm VP of Devops and Automation. Just a quick intro without going into all the work profiles. So, I started off as a software engineer and architect for Bank of America. So, progressed my way through technical leadership in architecture. I did develop a lot of affinity for QA. So, that was, probably the third bullet point on my slide. Around those days, about 10 to 11 years back, DevOps was catching a lot of trend, and I found that trend very interesting. So from software engineering and architecture, I made transition into DevOps, learned the trade, the skills, matured into taking on DevOps leadership roles. So that's what I've been doing for last 10 to 12 years, and I do specialize in public cloud migrations for mid to small sized organizations.
Thank you so much, Sid, Arth, and Sunil. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks, Richie. Hey, everyone. Happy New Year and all the best for your job search or the options which you are looking for. Since this event is for IBM, so this is Sunil Sharma. I worked for IBM close to 9 years. I'll more elaborate on IBM side of the experience. I joined IBM as advisory system programmer, which is essentially the event of this today's event, which is equivalent of system software engineer or software engineer in IBM terminologies. And then later on, I progressed my career to application architect after getting formally mobilized as an architect by the IBM, which is the IT architect plus the enterprise architect combinations. Currently, as a matter of chance, with SID, I also deal with DevOps and cloud and Java and microservices. And I guess that's the containerization. That's my key these days. I'm developing solutions for various financial organizations, I guess, since last 6 to 7 years. And that is my overall profile. And over to you, Rishi.
Thank you so much for that introduction to the both of you. I'm going to launch the last poll for the evening. If at any point you find value in this conversation and you'd like to learn more about Alco, please join us for an info session at one of the choices available in the last poll. On that note, I'll go ahead and let you all kick it off with how I became a successful IBM software engineer conversation. Siddharth, please take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Sachi. Hey, Sunil, extremely impressive profile, and you and I have been talking before the events get started. So, let's just get into your beginning. So, going back 13 to 14 years, talk a little bit about how did you decide to become software engineer and why software engineering?
In that sense, I don't think I had the ability at that time when I decided to consciously choose the career. To
Okay.
be very frank, right? I don't want to really, really take the benefit of this. See, the early 2000s, the computers were gaining. Everybody was talking about IT, and it was a glamour. There was money also, if you like, and there was and and there was a little bit of mathematical bent of mind as well. So naturally, engineering was the choice, and within engineering, I happened to get the computer science as the stream. So I did complete the 4 year engineering university degree, and that made the choice for me. So I guess it's a combination of intensity towards sciences and mathematics, and then the glamour of IT and computer science in those days. And once you have the 4 year degree, then probably your life becomes easy. So I guess the 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 overall society chose it for me. I don't think I consciously chose
Okay.
it.
No, I mean, lucky you. In my case, I was given a choice of either doing that or a family business, and I'm like, okay, never mind then.
Oh,
Um,
no.
so,
I
so
did not
Sunil,
have that dilemma. Yeah.
so Sunil, talk a little
Yeah.
bit about your college days, right? So I hear that a lot of people who decides software engineering as a profession, did you have to select any particular courses, or were you trying to pick up courses like Java programming right from your college days?
Yeah, that was the choice. I guess I had the inclination more towards the hardware side of things
I see.
and the embedded side of things. Personally, that used to look little more attractive and catchy to me when I used to see things like motherboard or anything similar. That used to look more
Right.
exciting to me rather than writing a piece of code. I did try to move to the embedded side of things, or the hardware side of things, or firmware side of things.
Hmm.
But then everybody told me that, hey, you will be, you should have chosen that you made the mistake. You should have chosen the electronics or electrical engineering rather than taking the computer science. And then I think I reconciled myself with the decision. I said, okay, software is a better choice because I may not have that rich background as
Right.
required for electrical and electronics engineering. Yes, I had that dilemma, but I guess it got off. I could come to terms with that in my first 1 or 2 years, that it's okay, it's fine to continue. In
Yeah.
fact, I gave a second choice also to work as a network engineer rather than working as software engineer.
Interesting. Okay.
That to at least still have some relation with hardware, the switches,
Right.
the switches,
Right.
the hubs. But I guess in first 2 years of my career, I reconciled with that decision. Yes,
Very
I had that.
interesting. Okay. So Sunil, IBM, right? Extremely big brand, right? And I think it's very difficult to find a software engineer on a planet who's not aware of a brand like IBM,
Like,
right? So
yeah.
tell us a little bit, how did you, was IBM your first job, or how did you decide or narrow down your opportunity on IBM?
Again, the society chose it for me, or IBM chose it. I don't think so. So we all know what 2008 was, right? By then I
Right.
was working for another software company, and everything was fine. I had the quality of work, I had all the exposure and everything required, and things were going fine. But we know for this world, the 2008 was very harsh, right?
Yeah.
and uh, and the appraisals and then the salary cuts and everything happened, and I would be lying if I say that I did not have the fear of that. Those things were happening with my other contacts, and I thought that
Mm.
might be coming to me as well. So luckily, just because 2008 happened, I started preparing myself for a job switch,
I
or
see.
rather I started preparing for myself for another job. And as soon as 2008 end, and in first quarter I floated my resume. I don't know how it happened. Somehow IBM picked my resume and they called for the interview. I said, okay, yeah, fair enough. And luckily, when the opportunity meets your preparation. So
Right.
2008 might be bad thing for others. Yes, I lived with a lot of fear, but that enticed me to prepare myself. When the opportunity met the preparation, I was prepared. IBM called me. There's a 6, 7 rounds of interview, I guess 3, 4 those days. And then that materialized and I came there. So I guess 2008 was the trigger. The fear of
Was the
the
trigger.
uncertainty of 2008 were the trigger to search for a job. And I guess IBM picked me there.
Absolutely. So I think preparation, I mean, that's a key theme for this particular webinar. So I'll come back to that one, but just to continue and understand your career path. So this was back in India when you applied for IBM, or were you in States already when you applied for IBM?
It's mixed. I was in middle. I was in
It
middle.
was the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, because when you are in the States, I don't want to talk about those subjectivities, but the visa complication, the H1, the
Yeah,
L1, you cannot switch
absolutely.
job, you cannot do this, that those kind of things come into picture. But
Absolutely.
I was in flux. I
Okay,
was in
okay.
stores. Yeah.
And then, so you had a pretty long tenure with IBM, right? So, I mean, how was your experience with IBM? How did you, what was the first profile you had in IBM? And if you can talk us a little bit about your career progression within IBM.
Yeah, so that is very interesting part. I guess the key thing, and just to make it clear, right? I'm not official spokesperson. To take the legal aspect off, I'm not the official spokesperson of
Noted.
IBM. I'm just talking here in personal capacity, and just this is just to take the legal aspect off, right? So, so I guess IBM is a land of opportunity. Let me put it this way, right? If you have a company like they used to be called as, right, the Deep Blue and the various names, right? They've been called for. So I did join as advisory system programmer, which is the system programmer, the software engineer equivalent in IBM terms, right? That
I
is
see.
how I joined IBM. And then of course I continued for first 2 years. You just continue working, and then after that there are various career progressions built in the HR process of IBM, which after a year or two at the most, they'll ask you to start thinking about your career progression, even if you like it or not. That's inbuilt in the process once you are inside the
Interesting.
system. Your managers, your mentors, the HR partners, and other things will come and they'll start talking to you. And that is where they said, okay, if you cannot decide by your own, there are various paths. I don't want to go into those
Sure.
details, but there are various paths in the career terms. And if they give you the option that if you cannot decide by your own, you try one or two, you just test the waters for 6 months to 1 year, and then take a call. So I did. I worked as I was working as a system engineer. I mean the software engineer, and then they gave me role of software system integrator, where you take a package, IBM package, and implement it at the client side or solution it. Then they said, okay, how about the architect? So within IBM, there is something which is called IT Architect Mobilization Program. If those who have heard of TOGAF, the Open Group
Yeah.
Architecture Framework, the TOGAF is basically, IBM is a member of TOGAF, right? So if you are architect within IBM, then you go to TOGAF, you say, hey, you certify me as architect, and then they certify you
Got it.
just because it is a member. So there is an internal program similar to architect certification by TOGAF. There is an internal program of IBM called IT Architect Mobilization. So IBM, after some evaluation, they chose me and then they mobilized me as an architect. Okay, which means, okay, from programming, now you are going into design and architecture space. That's a very intensive training, and it goes for almost 3 months. If you take the online, offline, and self-study, all classes completed, that goes for 3 months, full-time kind of job, right? You have to do a lot of double duty if you really want to complete that. And then I went into that. I completed that program, and I became associate architect. And as part of that, you start getting assignments, or you start
Right.
getting projects which are more on the architecture side, where you have to really exercise architecture uh, profession. Once you do that 6 months completion, after that you become architect. At least one project you have to complete as associate architect, either as a main assignment or a stretch assignment, and then you become architect. And then they start giving you those kind of assignments. And once you complete 2 3 years there, then again they give you they gave you the option whether you want to be enterprise architect, whether you want to be let's say any business domain architect or cloud architect or any other architect. And at that time I chose to be in banking domain architect. That is again a big course, online offline included. That's almost 2 months
Right.
2 months course. So basically, long story short, IBM has it in built in within their own processes to convert you from a software engineer to the designer or to developer or the data modeler or and then within architecture, whether you want to be cloud architect or DevOps architect or security architect, system architect, and all type of things, or whether you want to be the enterprise architect, even they
Yeah.
have the TOGAF equivalent also. So that is how I went there. And I guess IBM gave me multiple roles: the programmer, the system integrator, the solution manager, the application architect. They gave me even the solution architect, and that is how it continued.
Understood.
Keeps.
Okay. So obviously, after spending a long time and having a successful career progression with IBM, you decided to move on. So I see that now you are with Virtusa.
Right.
So if you can elaborate a little bit as to what is your current profile, what are some of the things you like about what you're doing right now?
So my job currently, if I summarize in terms of skills, is basically you pick you pick a legacy application and you do whatever you want to do with this, re-architect it, that's the good term, and push that re-architect application on a CI/CD pipeline or
Yeah.
DevOps pipeline, and it so that it gets delivered to a cloud platform. In the current context, it is again Red Hat IBM product
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
Red Hat OpenShift.
Right.
They're thinking about AWS as well, but that is how. So basically, this side you take legacy monolithic and you push it into the CI/CD pipeline, and where it goes to cloud. So that's my job basically. Take it and push it in. That's in layman terms, right? You said being again in DevOps terms and doing the almost same thing. I guess you can understand what the nuts and bolts are involved here.
Absolutely.
But if I be little more, if I go to next level of detail, basically I take a legacy application, break it into microservices, and then I channelize it into the CI/CD pipeline. I'm responsible for setting up the CI/CD pipeline also for DevOps purposes, even including security. So it's not just DevOps; it is DevSecOps, and then it goes into it gets deployed into the OpenShift in the containerized form, and then the high availability, the scalability, and all those parameters we get free of cost with any of the cloud platforms, and that is what we get with the applications also. And in return, we get a better end user experience or time to market, and that is what I'm doing these
Absolutely.
days. Yeah.
So, Sunil, I'll come back to the preparation, because I think a lot of people say that once you are established in in a good brand, then if you work hard, you can obviously keep moving up the ladder based on your talent and all. But the preparation for
Hmm.
that first step is extremely critical.
Hmm.
And especially for companies like IBM, because it's such a good and big brand that the standards are very high. So,
Right.
so talk a little bit about your preparation process. What were the materials you used? How did you get into that mindset of preparing for IBM, and any specific details which could help our attendees?
Yeah, and I guess this is where, see, very similar to as technology is moving, right? Likewise, the recruitment process and the expectations from candidate, that is also moving.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and be very cautious, all participants, please, including Sid. What I'm going to tell you may be, little offbeat. That might be a little outdated, right? Uh, Now, the preparation was really so. So again, the personal bent of mine, right? One way I was more inclined towards the network and hardware side of things, but at the same time I had my interest in the theoretical computer science aspect, which is data structure and algorithm, right? And so at that time, uh, I would say a smaller version of what is being talked a lot these days in on-site interviews, be it Amazon or be it Google or be it Facebook. That is what was basically asked by IBM from me. They did ask me to write the code. They did ask me about to bring the efficiency and optimization in my solutions, which they were expecting at that time, at least for the role which I was being recruited. And they did ask the academic questions as well about the Java technology also. So if I summarize, it's again the basics of computer science, including the theoretical computer science, and then the core programming language which you are talking about. That, in nutshell, that was what it was. But I guess the point I want to highlight here, I want to go ahead a bit more here. I was actually on the recruitment panel of IBM also, and for at least Java technology and generic computer science, for these two technologies. And allow me to drive a bit of pleasure here or bit of pride here, if it's not self pat on the back. I was involved in at least 200 interviews, if you don't take it otherwise.
You said 200.
200, that is correct.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah. Matter of things, I happened to be at a place where my family was not there. I used to nominate every time whenever there is a recruitment. I, I say you nominate me. And they somehow used to take me at the location where I was. There was no other Java interviewer. They said, okay, let's put Sunil. So for some period of time, I wasn't there. I don't know what I should be calling it, right? So, and what HR says is basically HR does not expect you to be good only in one technology or only in one aspect. Though IBM has some specific requirement for a specialist in one particular area or one particular technology, but at the same time, the mandate from HR was to be to take those guys in, and I'm giving you the maybe IBM secret information here, to take those guys in who can easily be deployed after 2 years also in a different project, right? Who can take up different assignments. Not that they are a specialist, they are way to depth in particular technology, but they should have the computer science basics intact so that they can be groomed to be working on other technologies as and when the technology expires or it ages or it is no more required. So I would say if IBM is the company and if my experience is not way too outdated, then I would still say the basics of computer science and at least hold on one solid programming language is still your key to be a successful software engineer in IBM.
So Sunil, a lot of Hollywood movies have commercialized this concept a lot that if you are trying to go for one of these big brands, then you need to be rock solid on data structure and algorithms, and you should probably be in a position to just start churning code left and right. How much of that do you agree with? Like, what was the importance of, let's say, learning data structure and algorithms, or even writing code, during the interview preparation and henceforth?
So let me answer it in the same lighter tone. So if you have seen the glorification of such big companies, then you all have also seen the other side of same glorification, saying that others think we are doing. So if I'm working in IBM, then what others think I'm doing rocket science, but what my colleagues thinks I'm counting dollars, right?
Right.
What so and so thinks I'm doing something very technical, but what actually I'm doing is right. So that is also, but that is on a lighter note. So yes, I guess importance is because I think during my tenure in IBM specifically, if not for other companies, I definitely had every now and then problems or the issues which were to be solved by using those basics of data structure optimization and algorithm. Uh, and it is both ways. It's the finding what is the root cause here. Those tools were used, and solving those problems. Again, those tools were used. So I would say yes, they are important not only for during the recruitment process, but they are important in discharging your job duties confidently and responsibly. So yes, I believe they are very important and they should be they should remain part of our job. Because if it is not a technology, then let's not call them software engineer. Let's call them IT operators or let's call them something else. But as a
Yes.
software engineer, I guess it's quite important.
So,
It's
Sunil, I'm sure, like, based on your experience and my experience, we both, come across a lot of younger people who come forward, and what they usually try to do is pick up the next popular programming language, right? Whether it is Go or whether it's Ruby on Rails or whichever one it is. Um, my personal philosophy is something which you actually mentioned few minutes back, and I totally agree with that. That it doesn't matter which programming language, pick one and be really good at it.
right.
So, can you elaborate on that? Because I do want our attendees to hear that point a little bit more.
Yeah,
Um,
so this is actually a technical question as well as a philosophical question, both, right? So what works, it works. What doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? So if Ruby on Rail is popular with Facebook, let's say, if not today, at least 5 6 years back, and Ruby on Rail and you get picked by a company, then it worked for you, right? And maybe you were way too good in assembly or machine language, or maybe at a low level language, or optimizing every register, every storage, and every performance numbers. Still, just because there was no need, you could not be you could not be picked for that because there was no requirement there, right? So so in that sense, that's a philosophical part. What works, it works. What doesn't work, it doesn't work. The point with picking up any language, and just because a language is popular, you selling with that, I guess the age of selling that will be less. That's my personal opinion, and again, this is my personal opinion, right? So we know what Ruby on Rail was, let's say 5 years back, and where it is today, right? And that happens with every language, be it C, C++, even Java, or be it Go, or any other language, right? They have their own life. So if you are writing everything on your language, then then your age, your career age is as much as the age of that particular programming language, right? And
Okay.
then it is your call to decide whether you want to limit your age with the age of the technology, or you want to get equipped with such skills or such learnings in terms of data structure and theoretical computer science and algorithms, so that even when technology moves, it is easy for you to move along and you still continue doing that, right?
Got it. So, Neil, before I ask the next question, a quick reminder for all the attendees that if you guys have open questions, instead of pasting it in a chat window, just feel free to use the Q&A widget. That way, we can track your questions and we can try our best answering them as we go along. So, just wanted to quickly mention, I saw a couple of questions coming on the chat window. Okay, so Sunil, going back, so what was your experience with Outco? How did Outco actually help you with your preparation? Because
Yeah,
I personally came to know about Outco a few days back, and I'm really interested to see how you managed to use
yeah,
it.
and this is where I'll say that even if you have been awarded masters in the past at any point in time in terms of theoretical computer science, data structure, algorithm optimization, performance, and everything you can calculate in O of n. Still, I'll say, and I'm not selling out, believe me, they'll not give me even a single penny. They'll not give me even a cup of coffee. No, no, seriously, I'm saying this. And I'm not, let me put it this way, right? Let me go against Outco here. You join anything which is equivalent to Outco or equivalent of Outco. See, as I said, it's not only that technology moves, it is the recruitment practices, expectations, and the nature of questions being asked that also moves a bit. The state of art, right? The state of art changes not only with technology but other things also.
Hmm.
What I liked best was with Outco and my experiences, that they give you 360 view, and here 360 means not even 359.
Right.
360 here means exact 360. They give you 360-degree view about the whole recruitment process, technical, non-technical included, right? Now that's the important part. From creating your resume, publishing it, attracting the recruiters, first call with recruiters, telephonic interview, telephonic conversations, on-site interviews, and then talking to the HR partners, the recruiters, and the hiring manager and the interviewers, what all those components or all those people are expecting from you, and what to talk, what not to talk. And once you have been extended verbal offer letter or non-verbal offer letter, and if you have two balls and you are trying to juggle with them, or luckily if you are prepared then multiple balls, then how to well juggle them, from that to really signing the dotted lines, from and joining the company, that 360-degree view, I would say I had not seen with anybody else till date. Now, am I ignorant? Possible. Is Outco the only one? I'm not saying that. Do Outco have it? For sure, as per my experience. And that is where, so what I got from Outco is 360-degree view of end-to-end recruitment process. Uh, that is what will be the answer said. Uh, did you get
Okay.
the
No,
inputs?
absolutely, Sunil. Well said. Sunil, there is a question which actually I really find very interesting because that's on the lines of what I was about to ask you next. So it's a question from Joseph Brown, right? And I've heard this many years now. So a lot of people say that they may not have the traditional software engineering degree, right? But whether out of need or hobby, they have picked up a programming language. So essentially, does it really require for you to have a software engineering degree if you are trying to go for a big brand like IBM or likewise, or is it more about being hands-on with programming?
again, there is a philosophical component and there is a non-philosophical component, right? The person who created the software engineering degree, that there should be a software engineering degree, that person for sure did not have the software engineering degree, right? No, no, I do not mean to make mockery of your question, but we know, right? That is how the world evolves, right?
Sure.
So that means for sure the theoretical answer of this question is that you don't need a degree for sure, right? Uh, Without saying, because then who was the first software engineer, right?
Right.
So, and that's the now whatever I answer, I have to answer around that, right? So whether you have the inherent talent, uh, whether you are born software engineer or a particular, you have a technical bent of mind in a particular technology, a particular programming language by birth, or this is nature versus nurture, right? If you have inclination automatically, then you don't need degree, right? But if you do not, then you have to nurture that, right? So I get, and in the end, what works is both, right? You need to have both. So yes, you can always jump. You should not have any hesitation. Uh, Not having a degree is not the only struggle in life. I guess we, each one of us, struggle with one or two various things in life, day to day life. So yes, you go. I mean, if I borrow some of the other people's saying, this is not my saying, but I'm borrowing it for the sake of borrowing it. If you do not have it, fake it, right? For the time being, you fake it. You say, okay, yeah, I'm really pretty much equivalent of software engineer, and I am hands-on with Python or any other programming language. Let me go there and do. But deep down, you know that, yeah, you are missing these skills of software engineering, and that you will develop over a period of time. So there is no point in doing hands-on, I mean, job on the job learning and self-studies and everything. And that works. I think that works very well. And I've seen very successful folks in the industry who did not have computer science degree, and they were very successful. So I don't think it is needed in industry or otherwise also. But then again, yes, having a degree, and it's like, having a very good quality shoes versus having a polishing on it, right? So any kind of training or degree is nothing but the polishing, right? At the end of the day, everything is yours. So if you, as long as your soul is solid, yeah, go ahead. No part in that. But if you want to have it shining on it, yes, you need to develop it. You need not to formally acquire the degree. And these days, I think Google has recognized it officially. Google, I
Yes.
don't think they expect it any degree. So if Google has said it, then I guess I don't think I'm somebody to challenge Google, right? At least they are talking on data points. So I don't think it is required. You should move ahead. If you have it in you, then go ahead and give it a shot. Yeah.
I think that's very well put, Sunil, and I think I totally agree with that as well. That once you have, the mindset of a programming, you can pick up the other skills as you go. So, Sunil, the next part is a little bit about the transitioning, right? So let's say a particular person starts with a company like IBM or any other company for that matter, and they start off as a software engineer. After playing that role for 1 or 2 years, what other progression paths are there for this kind of a profile? Obviously, your profile is an example. You can progress into architecture, but do you mind
So
sharing your
this is,
perspective?
since this is IBM, yeah, sure. Since this is IBM, so I'll talk IBM. I can give the inside internal example, and I'll quote. I'm sorry if this is not meant to be shared outside. But it's like this. See, you have path in terms of program management, right? Which is
Hmm.
project management, or in the current context, the technical project management, right? I'm seeing a question here in the chat from Vinay, and it says site reliability engineering, right? So that's
Yes.
more of a, so software. So you are software engineering with the operations or the hardware part of the component, right? So you can move to be a site reliability engineer. So okay, sorry, I digress because of that chat. So so project management is one, uh, architecture is one, design and architecture, as I said. Then and need not to say that within architecture there are multiple, right? You want to be IT architect, you want to be application architect, or you want to be cloud architect, or you want to be any other type of architect, right? Then system integrator is another one. System integrator here, I mean, is, let's say you have any product from, let's say, Red Hat, right? IBM again, right? And you want to have OpenShift implemented, or Sid, which cloud offering you use in your current company? Just give me a name, need not to be correct.
No,
So
no, that's fine. I mean, we are actually a very heavy Microsoft shop, so we are fully on Azure.
fully on Azure. So
Yes.
to integrate Azure with your organization, or to migrate, first to have that setup and rail guards needed, you need a lot of work, at least 6 months.
Absolutely.
A lot of work need to go there, and if you
Absolutely.
do succeed in doing it in 6 months, you are a winner, right? And it
Absolutely.
is more than a year job, right? And then migrating the applications on that itself is, so that's a system integrator where you are integrating, right? This. So at a high level, though there are other ones as well. I can say sales is another path where you say, hey, Azure. At the end of the day, what happens is, gone are the days when people used to get impressed by the PPTs.
Yes.
Now the current story is that they want to hear it from the technical person. So sales here means Azure guy comes from Microsoft and says, hey, Azure offers this, and comes the Amazon guy and he says, hey, AWS offers this, and they don't want to hear from the person who just says next on PPT. They want to hear it from some technical brain, right? So you can be a technical brain with sales skills. So I'll say the technical project management, the architecture, and the programming path is anyway keep on going, right?
Yes.
That path is anyway there, and then so programming, IT architect, then system integrator, and then the technical project manager, and then the sales. So I can give at least these 5 different paths, and then different progressions within
Different
these
progressions for sure.
paths. Yeah.
So Sunil, just to close the loop on Vinay's question, right? So he brought up site reliability engineering to prepare algorithms. And if I heard you correctly, what you mentioned to me was that algorithms is a structured way of thinking.
Yeah,
So you need that for any of the career paths. It doesn't have to be specifically for site reliability engineering. You're going to use that mindset.
that
And I
is,
think that's the proper advice we'll have for Vinay.
yeah.
Sunil, I have a very interesting question for you because this is something I usually ask all my peers as well.
Yes,
So,
please. Yeah.
a lot of the people think that once you start getting progression into software engineering and all, if you want to make more money, then you
Uh-huh.
have no choice but to go into management track, because if you are not a manager of something, you're not going to make much money. I obviously have personal beliefs on that, but I'm going to let you answer that one.
Ah, yes, I think I have the experience to answer that question, but at the same time, always remember, grass is greener on the other side always,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes. Yes.
so since I'm not a manager, I always have a suspicion. Looks like this manager is making more money than I am, right? So I did test the water with project management path, and which is the program management. Basically, you manage some of the project of a smaller size, then bigger size, and then program, and then you become the manager, formal manager, right? I did that, but the peace of mind, taking responsibility of others. I mean, taking responsibility of self itself is a big task, right? In its own, and that is why you need organizations and their mandate to start operating. On top of that, as a manager, you are responsible for others as well, and you have to work as per others schedule, and you have to schedule some of the things as per others need. So taking the responsibility of others, not only of project, is a big task. So personally for me, the peace of mind which it took was was much higher than the money which probably they were, probably, if at all, they were offering, right? I do not know the salary of a
Right.
manager. It's just the grass is greener on the other side. But till date, I did test the waters, and I realized that that's not my calling. So, and that is where I stopped. And that is why I think, so I'm competent to answer your question in a way that I did test the water, but I did test the water for myself, right? Now, if somebody is a natural manager or somebody is good in taking responsibility of others, and if that doesn't cause lack of sleep to them, yeah, go ahead and find out by your own. But to me, I think I did test the water, and later on I realized money was the least factor when I thought. I mean, it was way too much for me to deal with. It's better for me to deal with technology rather than to deal with people. Right? People are the most complex components. So
Well, Sunil, at least from my perspective, I can tell you made a good choice.
that is correct. Yeah. So you know it, right? So you are answering. So even if you are getting dollars, which I do not know, right? even if you are getting
Absolutely.
dollar value, and but it ruins your peace of mind. I do drive some pleasure when my code works or when I solve a technical problems. But at the same time, when one of my reports or one of my project members says that, hey, hang on, today I want to take a leave and I had it scheduled, even when that leave was planned or unplanned, and that person fails to respond with the status, it causes anxieties in me. And living with that anxiety was way more, I think that sounded expensive to me, even if it is few extra dollars. I do not know the salary, and I think money should not be the deciding factor. Let me answer this question
Very
differently.
well said. Very well said.
Money should not be the deciding factor. Whether you enjoy doing the job or you do not enjoy doing the job, that should be your calling, uh, rather than money should be the criteria, and
Absolutely.
then you will know by your own whether it is your calling or not. Yeah, go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
So Sunil, in your opinion, right? I mean, so especially like now with so many colleges and so many offline avenues which are producing software engineers, we have a lot of them. We need more, but we still have a lot of them. So in your opinion, what differentiates between a good, I mean, or an average software engineer and a really good software engineer? What are some of the pointers you can share with our attendees if they want to become, a really good software engineer?
Yeah, so I guess part of that answer can be half of the answer can be answered best by you, Sid, because you come from QA background, right?
Yes,
so, so I'll speak from software engineering background. We speak from QA background, right? So
sure.
let's divide. So this question has two answers, right? A, your code, your deliverable should be good. That is one, and B, they should not be a pain in the back for others, right? Which is the QA part, right? So they should have the quality and they should meet the requirement. They should meet business or functional requirement. They should meet the non-functional requirement, which is performance and the resource consumption and everything, the data structure and algorithm aspects. And they should not break anything else in somewhere else, the side effect. So that is that is if but that's okay. So if you can produce your deliverables which meet these two requirements, meeting the functional and non-functional requirements and meeting the quality requirements, right? And what are the quality requirements? I guess everybody in the panel knows it, and I said I guess you best know it, right? The maintainability and the
Yes.
readability and security and the multiple, that list is never ending, right? So if your deliberate, so that person who can meet these two requirements in their deliverable is a good software engineer for sure. And those who cannot meet, they are not so good software engineer. I'll not say, I don't like calling somebody bad. Now the question, I guess your question is not who is good or bad. I guess your question is how to be there, right? How to go
Yes.
there. So I guess in that is where just don't limit yourself to the books. Get involved into the boot camps, then the sessions like Outco, the lead code, the competitive programming, and at least with colleagues, those who are students, so that some kind of benchmarking or comparison can be done. Comparison not as in I'm good or bad, comparison as in, okay, this code can be improved this way, this code cannot be improved this way, and that would differentiate. So I guess quality and the functional non-functional requirements, these focus on these two things is the key here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sunil, the next topic
So
I have
I'll
for
stop it here. Said, how are we tracking on the time if I'm not narrating much slow?
we have about 7 more minutes. So
Uh-huh.
we can pick up one more theme and then we'll take some Q&As in the last 10 minutes. So we have about
Okay.
7 minutes left.
Yeah, sure. So we are on time, right? We are
We are
covering.
we are doing okay. We are
Yeah,
doing
sure.
okay.
Thanks, Sid. Yeah.
So, Sunil, the next one actually, somebody also asked this in a Q&A and we'll come back to it, but a very major topic from my perspective, right? So when it comes to software engineering, people think about C sharp and Java and they start, thinking in these lines. Nowadays, there is a huge trend in the market about cloud. Everything
Right.
is about cloud, right? So just that software engineering is a starting point. Similarly, companies are broadcasting for cloud engineering and all.
Right.
So share your experience a little bit that how does software engineering translate into being a cloud engineer? Or more specifically, if I'm starting off my career as a software engineer, when and how would I convert into being a cloud engineer?
So as I okay, Yeah, so this is good question. I think I have a personal experience. So
Sure.
before IBM bought OpenShift, and this is a good part, right? During, let's say, early 2010s, right? 10, 11, 12, 13, where cloud was really taking birth, right? Amazon was leading, but everybody else was sleeping, be it HP,
Yes.
be it Oracle, be it Microsoft, be it IBM. They all were sleeping, right? Uh, Amazon was grabbing the share. So what, and IBM had multiple offerings. So the cloud, we say, right, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service,
Yes.
software as a service, those kind of things. So IBM had everything, right? The IaaS, the PaaS, and SaaS. They had everything. And try to think it differently, right? It's not that you only, if you are a software engineer, then it's not that only you want to switch to the cloud. It's that even companies want, or the suppliers, the vendors of cloud, be it Amazon or be it non-Amazon, they also want their own team members or their own current employees or their own new recruits to get migrated to the cloud, right? Because that is how they can sell their product. That is how they can make money, right? So you need to understand that you do not have a need to migrate. The employer also has a need to migrate some of their employees to their cloud offerings. And IBM did that to me. I those days IBM was trying to sell Bluemix. So what they
Mm.
did is they created, for before Bluemix of cloud offering of IBM was made public to everybody else, all employees of IBM had their internal account or Bluemix, where they could have developed the applications and they would have shipped their applications to the Bluemix before it was made public to the outside world. And it was in some of the cases it was made mandatory with some of the employees, that you have to at least publish one Hello World program. So
Mm.
how I saw it happening in IBM with Bluemix, I saw is, though with other offerings I proactively picked to solution some of the product, but with Bluemix what I saw is that IBM made it mandatory, and I did publish some of the applications, and that becomes the spark in you. Once you create one application and publish it on cloud offering, be it publicly available or still in the pilot or beta version, and then then somebody inside you speaks, oh hey, hang on, this seems interesting, let me go into it, or there are more opportunities into it, or hey, I like at least these aspects, and then you start talking to your manager and you start migrating to it. So long story short, I guess the employer gives you the opportunity, and IBM for sure gives it opportunity. At least it gave it to me with their Bluemix offering, and I did publish some of the components there, and that is how I know whether I want to go for cloud or I don't want to go for cloud.
Got it.
That is
So,
how.
Sunil, last two questions before we start the Q&A round. And I have to ask you this because of DevOps, right? So,
Mhm.
DevOps, a huge new buzzword, right?
Yeah.
And it's that bridge which sits between, let's say, the software engineering and the operators.
Right. Right.
So, what qualities or what skills do you think a software engineer should pick up when it comes to DevOps methodologies so that they can work in tandem or even progress towards being a DevOps engineer?
This is a very big answer, I guess, and we are having 2 minutes.
Okay.
So DevOps, as you said, right, the development or operations, best case is you have both world scenario, which is not practically possible. I would say, in my opinion, what helped me was the background of system integrator, right? You see,
Hmm.
let me take a common, you have a, let's say, Bitbucket, right? And then you have Jenkins, and
Hmm.
then you have white hat or black hat, or black duck security scan, or then you have sonar scans, then you have other scans, and then you have the deployment, right? So maybe deployment part where you don't need hardware, but for everything else, you need to have some kind of system integrator background. And then when you connect Jenkins with Bitbucket,
Wait,
you
okay.
need to have some kind of APIs talking to each other. Either you Either they are inbuilt because you downloaded the plugins or the solutions which are officially already available in the market, or you develop some customization. In case of RTC, I had to develop some customizations. So system integration and system integration and your programming background comes helpful in this case, but that's until deployment. Post when you reach to the deployment stage, that is where I guess the operations or the hardware aspect or that with programming comes into picture. Because the good or bad thing is in the industry, operations guy don't understand anything about the application part,
Yeah.
and application part core application developers do not understand anything about where it is being deployed and which folder and where what is happening there, right? So I guess I'll break the question, and there is a correct and a longer version, I guess, somewhere in the back of my mind,
Sure.
but I cannot say that. But here I'll break before deployment part till DevOps. That is where you need system integration and the programming knowledge. Once it reaches to the deployment part or run part, that is where you need to have some experience around the operations and the programming. In all said and done, you need programming, be it Ansible, be it non-Ansible, shell script, call it a
Yeah,
scripting, but it at the
absolutely.
end of the day is programming, right?
Absolutely.
You use Chef or you Puppet or whatever you want to use it. At the end of the day, it is some piece of code being executed. Call it a script, call it program, call it anything else. It is some piece of script being executed along with integration or trigger by somebody, whether it is agentful or agentless or SSH or non-SSH, that need to happen. So in the end, it is integration and program. So programming you need. Even for SRE, I guess there are questions here. I guess they say either you need to be a good program, a very good programmer with a touch of
Yeah.
operations, or you need to be with a good operations with a touch
Operator.
of operating. So I
Absolutely.
guess you need to have here. I'll say I'll bring the system integration part to integrate the CI/CD pipeline part of the DevOps. That is where you need system integration. But yes, you need to be well rounded, if I can say it that way. And I guess that is something which you gain experience once you enter in the industry. But to start with, being software engineer is the best bet, because programming is, in IT world, the first class citizen is the software engineer. Let me put it this way: those
Absolutely.
who are not who are not- unfortunately or fortunately, in that sense, the IT industry is little unfair, or the software engineering world is unfair, that those who are not software engineer, they don't treat them as first,
Absolutely.
first as
All right,
the.
Sunil, I think a lot of people are eager to, have their questions answered. So I'm going to pick some of them. So guys, just a reminder again, because of time constraints, we possibly cannot answer every single question. So feel free to reach out to Sunil. Feel free to reach out to me. We might be able to help you offline as well. So Sunil, the first question, it is coming from Adre, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, and Andrew. And this is something actually which is a very interesting and very important question, that a lot of the attendees or even out there, the job seekers are still in college, right? So they are still students. And they see a job posting by whether it is IBM or Microsoft, and it says you need to have 3+ years of experience, 4+ years of experience. And it's a very tricky thing, because being a student, you have the intent, you have the skills, but you don't have a professional world experience. So what are some of the things a student can do to qualify for that job experience, or is there an alternative path to
Yeah,
it?
right. So it is a good and bad both words, right? These days, the bad thing is that everybody is asking for experience. That's the bad part for the students. But the good part these days is that you can always pick any of the open source projects or
Yes.
GitHub just for your interest and start publishing your code there, right? And these days, as I was told, and this is where the outcode does offers, I think the term is Richie can highlight that. I think it is called reverse recruiting or something, right? Where it is not that, see, the recruiters are searching for good code writers there, right?
Hmm.
And if they happen to reach your GitHub page and they realize, hang on, this guy is writing something good, or this guy has produced this much amount of code, or along with your resume, instead of saying your just the educational academic qualifications, you highlight your big part of the GitHub work also, or you pick up some of the open source projects, and then you start contributing and publish its code wherever it is required to be, and that is where you can attract this. So I'll say, just for practice, to start with lead code. Pick some technology and let's say microservices, start developing microservices code and start publishing that in your GitHub or anything else. Third, I'll say become a kind of arbitrator or contributor in an open source project. and they'll keep on publishing the requirements to you. You solve them and publish them. What it is adding is it is giving you not just the brownie points. Initially they'll sound like a brownie points, but later on they'll be the actual point, in a way that you have something to show to the recruiter or the hiring manager that, hey, I have this much lines of code of experience,
Yeah,
good quality production. So that is how you can do the reverse recruiting, and this is a term I'm picking from Outco, and you can attract the recruiters towards you.
absolutely. Sunil, the next question is from Brian. It's a two-part question. You mentioned, actually, both of us mentioned that one programming language you should be really good at. So the question is, when you were starting your career, which programming language were you really good at?
C++.
C++. The next part to that question is, if you have to give that advice to someone today, which programming language would you recommend them?
Python. I have
Python.
heard a lot about it. I have not seen its role. See, it's like this, how my mind is working. And believe me, I'm not a fortune teller, right? So whatever I'm saying may all be crap, right? so what my prediction is, or what my brain is saying to me, is that AI and the machine learning part, or the deep learning, that is going to have the smart cities, again the IBM term, right? The
Absolutely.
smart cities, the smart cars, a smart blah, everything is smart, right? A smart lock, a smart car, everything is going to be smart, which essentially means that you have the AI or ML or deep learning built in inside it, right? And in the statistic which I have, and I'm saying that I'm not quoting any officially correct data, the statistic I have is that most of the machine learning work is happening in Python. So in that sense, I'm proposing the Python.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The next one is from Jeremy. So Jeremy is asking that he has apparently applied for a software engineering apprentice position at IBM, and he's wondering what could be the interview process for this particular position. Like how many rounds, what kind of rounds, if you can answer briefly.
So in turn, I did not. And
Okay.
for me, the criteria was, I did not take the college graduates. I was at least L1 cleared folks came to me. So first round of interview cleared came to me. So for intern, I cannot say, but I would say you should, at whatever programming language, Jeremy, you are highlighting, uh, they will definitely be asking queries on this, and they'll definitely be asking about the basics of computer science. So you are applying as apprentice. I'm assuming that you are doing some kind of college work related with computer science or related field. They will ask for the basics. That is what is my best guess. I do not have any first-hand personal experience on this. So two things I'm saying: the basics, what is being taught there. Second thing is the one programming language which you are highlighting, or one technical area where you are going, in case you are going for any other area, embedded or something. And then of course the employability or your interest in IT or in software engineering or in computer science and in IBM. Those three areas will be the key thing.
Thank you, Sunil.
Jeremy, please focus on that. Yeah.
The next one is from Christopher, and his question is, what was the kind of a project you worked on when you first entered your IBM? So what was your first project?
That was very complex question. That was very, very complex. So you might have known that IBM has acquired multiple, and believe me, again, this may be proprietary information of IBM, but I'll just say it for the sake of. So over a period of time, IBM has acquired multiple companies, right? You might have seen, right?
Hmm.
And Red Hat happened to be just one of them. It is not the only company which IBM has acquired. So there is a company which used to create financial products, financial industry product, primarily insurance domain products they used to make. Their product was fine, everything was fine, but that product did not have any cloud offering. And IBM's endeavor was to take that product and convert into software as a service, like the cloud-based Jenkins, right? Jenkins, they used to install, say in your world, in Devops world or in CI/CD world, they have Jenkins, right? So my first project was to take one of the product of the other product company and convert that into software as a service and sell it to the other members. Now, whether IBM had a plan to acquire that company or what was the name of the company, I'm not saying it because I suspect it might be a proprietary information, but that was my project.
No worries. Sunil, just one last question for you from my side, and see if you can give us a one-liner answer. What is
Okay.
the next? Where are you going next from here? What is your next step in your journey?
Enterprise architect, where I
Enterprise
decide
architect.
where I decide whether it is Azure or it is Amazon, which needs to be implemented on the technical parameters, not on the price only.
Absolutely. Sunil, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I wish we had more time, but guys, again, the LinkedIn URLs are there. Sunil, thank you so much for all the
Yeah,
time.
sure. I'll
Um,
I'll hang around, Sid, just in case anybody had a specific question. No proprietary question, just to make it clear. I'll hang around. I have some time.
Absolutely.
I'm
So,
fine being here. Yeah.
Richie, over to you, and guys, have a good one. Richie.
Yeah, hey there. Thank you all so much. I'm seeing some thank yous here on the chat. Just wanted to say, thank you so much for coming, and I just wanted to say to Sunil and to Siddharth, thank you so much for your time. I do see that we have one more question here in the Q&A, but I just see that it says, what should I focus on? I guess as the last question, just to end this evening, are there any last words that you have, Sunil, especially for someone who's just starting off their career? And I'm seeing all this love in the chat here. Thank you, the
The same.
best.
I'll say
Yeah,
the
thank you so much. Do you
focus
got?
on the basics. So focus on the basics of computer science and the one programming language which you are working on.
Awesome. On that note, we wish you all a great evening, and I'm going to be ending the session now. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you all.
Thank
Take
Take
you.
care.
care.
Thank you very
Stay
much.
Bye.
safe.
Bye.